Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Bonazzoni, and I am the project facilitator for the Alberta Healthy School Community Wellness Fund. Thank you all for joining us today for a webinar on the topic of unstructured child-led play in comprehensive school health, presented by Nicole Glenn, who is a senior research associate in the Centre for Healthy Communities at the University of Alberta School of Public Health. The presentation will be followed by a question period and a very brief evaluation, which helps us determine which topics you would like to see in the future. Please feel free to type your questions in the chat box throughout the presentation. Just a reminder that this webinar presentation will be recorded and posted to our website later this week, along with other webinars you may have missed or would like to watch again.
Thanks, Jasmine. I'm just going to start sharing my presentation with everyone. Okay, I hope you're all able to see. Maybe Jasmine, just let me know if perfect. Okay, so I wanted to just start by thanking you, Jasmine, and the Alberta Healthy School Community Wellness Fund for having me, and everyone who's joined us today for joining. I also wanted to thank all the teachers and educators and school administrators who are on the line right now for the essential work that they do and for showing up at this particularly challenging time. I really hope that you find something in this presentation to inspire you or ignite your imagination. So I'm here on behalf, as Jasmine mentioned, of the Centre for Healthy Communities, which is a centre of the School of Public Health at the University of Alberta. What we do in the Centre of Healthy Communities is we work with communities in partnership, doing community engaged research. We're very interested in promoting public health values like equity and inclusion and considering the social determinants of health. And you'll see some of those things sort of weave their way through this presentation. So we'll start by just thinking of our own childhoods. And I wonder if you could think back to your childhood, maybe a favorite thing you'd like to do or a memory, something that really sort of stuck out to you in terms of the kinds of things you enjoyed when you were a child. And while you're thinking of that, maybe I'll tell you about one of my own. There's one that's really clear for me, and what kind of amazes me about it is its complete ordinariness. I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I was lying on the front lawn of my house. The grass, I remember being very wet. It was dewy, and I could smell it. It had that kind of fresh cut smell. I'm wearing a shawl from the dress up bin. I don't really know why. I still don't know. I do remember having this feeling like the day was stretching out long ahead of me. It was really early in the morning. It was summer break. My parents were inside, and I was waiting for my mom to come out to tell me that it was late enough in the day to start knocking on my friends' doors. Once I did, that would be it. We'd be off playing in the neighborhood until it was lunchtime. I suspect you might have similar memories of your childhood. Now I'm going to ask you to think about children you know now. Maybe these are children that you work with, that you teach, your own children, or children that you see in your neighborhood. And I wonder what their lives look like. Do they take off for the day and come home when the streetlights come on? My suspicion is that they don't, or at least not until they're a little bit older, and even then the parents might be either nearby or connected via technology. Children's ability to roam is indeed shrinking, and I'll walk you through this picture. This picture actually comes from an article that was published in the Daily Mail. There's been versions of this published in various places, but it's a visual depiction of 4 generations of a single family in a town in the UK. And we'll start by looking at the great-grandfather. This is him. He's got the biggest circle outlined in red there. It's all shaded in. This is sort of the area that he was free to roam at when he was about 8 years old, and it was sort of bounded by his favorite fishing hole. Then the grandfather, his world shrunk. It was about a mile from his home that he was able to venture out on his own. Then we see his daughter, and she had about half that again and was able to go to the local recreation center by herself or with her friends. And then we go to her son, who's now 8, and he's allowed to walk to the end of the block on his own, which is about 300 yards or around the same in meters. So it won't surprise any of you to know that Canadian children and youth received a D+ grade on the most recent participation report card for overall physical activity, which was published in 2019. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this report card, they're readily available online. They've published several of them, and I have links to resources and sources at the end, so you don't have to worry about copying anything down. Jasmine's also shared them on the side panel of this screen. So you don't have to read all the details. You can go find this report if you're interested. So these same children fared even worse on measures of active play and leisure activities, receiving a D grade. Since the mid-50s, children have had diminishing opportunities to engage in unstructured play. This is a problem in Canada and across the globe. More time is spent in schooling or on adult-directed structured activities like sports, or clubs, or things like music. During this same period, we've seen a pretty steep decline in physical activity and mental health scores of children, youth, and young adults. And they think that these two very well now may be related. And we'll look at some data showing us these changes. Now, you don't have to look at all the numbers here. I'll walk you through parts of this table. This is a study where the authors looked at time use of children. So they were recording how they spend their time. They looked at two different time periods, 1997 and 2003. And then they separated the data you can see along the top by age groups. Your younger children, ages 6 and 8, up to 12 years old in the second group. And they looked at the comparison of how kids were spending their time over those 6 years. And what they found was, in terms of play, a significant reduction in play time in that 9 to 12-year-old group. They also saw a significant drop in outdoor time for all of the age groups that they looked at, and increased studying across all age groups. Now, the same group of authors actually had conducted a study previous to this that looked at the period from 1981 up to 1997, and they actually found the exact same, except for even greater differences, because obviously that's a much longer time period. So you've probably already noticed that I've adopted the term unstructured play here. This is what I'll use for the remainder of the presentation. It aligns with the terminology used by the Canadian Public Health Association in their 2019 position statement on children's unstructured play. Unstructured play is also sometimes known as child-led play or free play or independent play. It also shares features with adventure or risky play, and those are quite key elements. Again, this is something you can find online freely, and I have links to it later on in this presentation. So the Canadian Public Health Association defines unstructured play as the play that happens when children follow their own instincts, their own ideas and interests without any imposed outcome. It may include challenging forms of play and provides opportunities for exploring boundaries that allow children to determine their own limits in a variety of different environments and settings. The outdoors is one such setting that is particularly key to unstructured play. This type of play can also involve risks, which we're going to talk a little bit more about now. So unstructured play creates opportunities for children to take on risks in a managed environment. And researchers have been looking at these ideas of risky and adventurous play among children, and they've identified sort of 6 elements that seem to play into this style of play for children. The first is heights. So children often climb trees or other structures to scary heights. They enjoy looking at the world from this new perspective. And they get a sense of mastery from having accomplished something like climbing and getting to the top that's difficult and scary. Risky play can also involve what are considered dangerous tools, such as maybe knives or bows and arrows, other kind of construction materials like you can see here, that have the potential to cause often minimal harm. There is, of course, for the children great satisfaction in being trusted with such implements and being taught how to use them properly. There's also a thrill in being able to control them and build things, knowing that they can create something, and that the possibility that there could be a mistake that they get hurt is also thrilling to them and gives them a sense of mastery. Risky play often involves being fast and speedy. This can be achieved through swinging or sliding, shooting down rapids on a boat, riding bikes and skateboards and other things with wheels. These produce a thrill of being almost, but not quite, out of control. Risky play can involve dangerous elements like playing with fire or around deep water. Similar to speed and heights, these pose a kind of danger that produces a thrill, but also a sense of control and a sense of mastery, and can build feelings of self-competence. The ability to disappear and get lost is an element of risky play. Just think of the thrill that little children get from hide and seek. It's sort of scary, but exciting to be temporarily separated from others. Older kids can achieve this through exploring new places where there might be imagined dangers or adventures. Again, this comes with excitement, fear, and can build a sense of mastery and confidence. Finally, risky play can involve rough and tumble activities like play fighting. Unstructured play, including outdoor and risky play, are vital to children's health and development. And according to Participation, and this is a report published previous to the one that I showed before, so from 2015, this is the cover of the report, they said the biggest risk that children face is being kept indoors. Unstructured play has many benefits. There's physical benefits, like the development of gross motor skills, and there's also social health and teamwork benefits. Unstructured play activities can build strength, fitness, and physical skills. Children learn through play what activities they enjoy, what interests them, and they can build self-awareness and understanding. Unstructured play can also promote empathy, cooperation, and teaches children how to both create and follow rules among their peers. Unstructured play is vital to the mental and emotional health of children. It builds resiliency, problem solving, and risk management. Children can gain self-esteem, learn how to manage their emotions, make decisions, exert control over their environment, and manage uncertainty through unstructured play. It also helps children to form friendships. It decreases their stress and anxiety and improves their ability to cope with adversity or challenges in the future because they have faced challenges in these circumstances and overcome them. So they start to feel confident in their own abilities. Unstructured play leads to learning and curiosity. It can promote children's development of language, cognitive skills, and memory. It can also lead to improvements in in-class behavior. Finally, unstructured play is fun. It gives children the chance to experience joy. Play is so important, as all of you are well aware, that it's considered a right of children. In 1989, the United Nations included play as Article 31 within their Convention on the Rights of the Child. So this is a model that many of you are likely familiar with. It's around comprehensive school health. So promoting unstructured play supports the overall goals of comprehensive school health and can work across settings, including the school, home, and community. I'd be remiss here not to mention that inequities exist in opportunities for children to participate in unstructured play that are based on social factors like gender, age, socioeconomic status, and location of residence, to name a few. And just to go into one of those examples, in terms of gender, we can see across different countries and different age groups that girls are very frequently given less opportunities to play in ways that are unstructured, outdoors, and risky. These differences are unfair. They are also preventable, which means that policies or programs that are implemented carefully can reduce these inequities. And we'll talk more about this as we discuss what can be done to support children's unstructured play. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, because children spend much of their time in school or engaged in schooling, even now during COVID-19. Schools have a great influence on families and communities. As well, they can be powerful advocates to government for children's needs, and we'll get more into some of these in a bit. First, let's talk about some of the barriers to children's unstructured play. Then we'll focus on some specific actions that schools can take to support and promote this form of play at school, in communities, and at home during the global pandemic and hopefully beyond. So there's lots of barriers to unstructured play that I'm sure many of you are aware of. Common ones, and probably the most common one, is around parental safety concerns. So specifically, this usually maps out onto traffic and stranger danger. So in terms of traffic, we actually have seen that since the 1950s, which is kind of the beginning of the comparison point, and some of the information that we looked at earlier was about change since then, we have seen increasing traffic, faster traffic, and more dangerous traffic patterns in terms of children's unstructured play in environments where there are cars. So that one definitely is something to be concerned about, and we'll talk more about ways of addressing this through different policies and practices later on. Then there's stranger danger, and the data just doesn't really bear out for this one. There's lots of different ideas as to why our sense of stranger danger has increased over time. A lot of it to do with the way we're connected globally with each other and social media. But the research just doesn't show this as being a problem that has increased since the 1950s in any way. There's also fears of judgment among parents, and there's cultures of parenting that are currently quite entrenched. And I'm sure we're all very aware of the helicopter or the lawnmower parenting, where we're clearing the way for the children. There's a lack of time and energy. There's also a lack of skills, and this goes across the board for parents, children, teachers, and others who don't necessarily know how to promote unstructured play. And even children, if they're not exposed to unstructured play early, it's not something that they necessarily know or feel that confident engaging with right away. So it's good to know that this is also a barrier. There's government regulations and attitudes, and these are often linked to legal concerns. And the way this balances out is more often than not, short-term safety concerns take precedence over longer-term health and development benefits, for example. There are financial limitations to promoting this form of play for schools, communities, school boards, but also for families in terms of time and access. Some places and communities have poor facilities, not a lot of green spaces or safe spaces to have unstructured play occurring. There's school and other childcare policies. There's often a lack of resources. So I'm thinking of schools in particular, maybe there's not enough teachers to create a supervision environment for these kinds of play. And there's other standards, and one in particular that comes up in relation to unstructured play is that of the Canadian Standards Association, who has the standards for the play equipment that's developed. And it's really focused on minimizing risk of an injury, but it actually doesn't account for children's development. So it doesn't do that risk versus benefit thing. If you're considering creating unstructured play opportunities in your school, your district, or community, first finding out what the specific barriers are for families, school boards, teachers, and others could be a really helpful first step and a good place to start to think about how do you address those. And sometimes the biggest barriers are around communication and understanding risks versus benefits. So fear of litigation in terms of injury prevention is probably one of the biggest institutional barriers to promoting unstructured play for children, particularly outdoor and risky play. So knowing the difference between risk and hazard and using research to make your case to parents, administrators, and governments can help to address this barrier. And there's good examples of this. And as you'll see later in the presentation, there's some great resources to walk you through, and places who have done this, like the City of Calgary, who've sort of weighed these out. A risk in the case of unstructured play is a calculated and managed opportunity that is within the child's control. They are able to determine their own limits, challenge themselves in ways that might be physical, as we've talked about, but these challenges might also be emotional or social. On the other hand, a hazard is a danger. It's not within the child's control. And I'll use the example of a ladder here. So if we're thinking about a ladder, a risk is when a child decides how high to climb on a very sturdy ladder. Whereas a broken rung on a ladder that the child is unaware of is a hazard. Research has shown that children are really well able to manage risk. They actually see the small injuries that result, like bruises or scratches, demonstrate that they challenge themselves and that they're courageous, while at the same time they see the dangerous play that can result in serious injury as undesirable, not only for themselves, but for their peers. They tend to take on risks that are within their personal capability, and they actually encourage their peers to do the same. So Mariana Bressoni, who's a researcher at UBC in this area, she studied children's risky play and injury quite extensively. And she's found that the benefits of managed risk far outweigh the possible downsides, such as serious injury. In fact, few serious injuries have been associated with unstructured outdoor risky play, and at least not more than we've seen in reference to children's sport or active transportation. So it's as safe as these other forms of activity that we promote. At the same time, the reduced aggression, increased physical activity, and other benefits of this type of play are clear. She actually argues that we need a paradigm shift from our current approach that seeks to keep children as safe as possible to instead keeping them as safe as necessary. So in the remainder of this presentation, we're going to talk more about some specific opportunities to promote unstructured play. And I've listed 6 here. There are lots of others. And one of the great things about this space and unstructured play is actually it is relatively well developed, and there's really great resources available that can give you ideas and walk you through the process of implementing various forms of unstructured play promotion. And Jasmine's linked to a number of them in the sidebar here, and they're all provided at the end of this presentation as well. And those are starting points. You might be able to find more as well, and I would encourage you to do so. But we'll talk through these specific 6 during the presentation now. So incorporating unstructured play into the schools and communities can help to address the inequities that we discussed earlier, since all children attend schools. So they will then benefit from the opportunities available there. So we'll start talking about play charters. So perhaps this is a great starting point for you in your school or in your district. A play charter is a shared vision for what play means to the local community. And the size of the local community can be anything from a school to a larger kind of community, town, a school district, and so on. A play charter is also a concrete commitment to action. So signing a play charter means doing something to support that shared vision. These actions can include policy commitments and other actions like the donation of loose parts, which we'll get into a little bit more later in terms of what that means. A play charter could be school board specific. It could also be specific to the district or community. The more it represents the local values, the better. If you're creating a play charter, get others involved outside of the school, like local government officials, parents, community leagues, recreation providers, and private businesses who are already working in that kind of play world and share similar values. And above all, don't forget the children. They're vital to the creation of an appropriate play charter. So this is just a picture, and you don't have to read it again. It's available online. This is Calgary's play charter. They created one, and you can find lots of other examples of actual documents of play charters online. In addition, you can find out how to create a play charter. And we actually worked with the City of Calgary, exploring their experiences, and Alberta Parks and Recreation Association, exploring their experience of having created the play charter, and have a step-by-step practical how-to guide that's readily available online through the Alberta Parks and Recreation Association website. And again, the links are at the end, and Jasmine's provided them. So another way of supporting unstructured play is by promoting risky and adventure play. This can include loose parts. And you actually see a picture here. It looks like a junkyard, and most likely because I had to find images through an image source, this is actually some kind of reused yard. However, um, these kinds of adventure play spaces take advantage of various large and small loose parts of material that allow children to sort of create their own playground and use the parts as they would like, and really give them a chance to reimagine things that otherwise might not have any more use. And common ones include old tires. I know in Calgary, an old bathtub was really exciting for the children. Bits of wood and other stuff like that. So all this kind of unfixed equipment gives them the opportunity to build and create a playground that suits them, and also to do that process of building and creating together. And you can see great opportunities for them to use tools and so forth. But there's scaled down versions that involve various things that could be packed away into a box and stored in an outdoor space or in a shed, something like that. And again, I encourage you to look online for examples and for resources to support this, and I've provided some at the end. This kind of risky adventure play means that adults don't give instructions or intervene directly in the play. They really are there to support. Oftentimes, uh, actual adventure playgrounds are staffed by trained staff who understand the playwork principles, and they're there really to address barriers and to help children facilitate this kind of play who may be unfamiliar with it. A big part of this is actually educating parents and talking to parents about their own fears and those kinds of barriers. So adventure play and playgrounds are basically the opposite of this structure, which is available in most neighborhoods. In these environments, children will often seek out risk, maybe great speed or height, by using the equipment in ways that it was not intended. And this obviously can lead to injury. I'm sure we've all seen kids in our neighborhood. I have seen them all the time in mine. Well, pre-COVID, when we spent lots of time at the neighborhood park. So last summer when my daughter was 3, she loved going on the swings at the park. So she was sort of sitting on the swing as it was intended. Meanwhile, there was this little girl, she probably was about 7, and she would scale the sidebars and start climbing along the top like a monkey, and hanging on what was probably a 10 or 12-foot beam. And she was by far not the only one. Every time I went to the park, I saw more kids hanging like her or climbing on the exterior of slides, way more climbing up the slides or to the exterior of the slides than going down them. They were balancing and jumping from structures to another. They were actually just finding opportunities to create risk, adventure, and fun. So one of the questions is, how can we support this kind of discovery and play at school? Again, as I mentioned, there's lots of tools and resources that will help you to create an adventure playground, or introduce elements of risky play into your play schedule and your settings. So as I said, one of these might be a loose parts box. And we, again, with the City of Calgary, created this how-to guide, and it's very detailed, that will walk you through the process and help you to do this kind of work and adapt it to your setting as appropriate. And again, it's freely available through the Alberta Parks and Recreation Association website. And again, as I mentioned, there's resources at the end of the presentation, and lots of them are actually focused on integrating elements of risky adventure play into various settings, including schools. There are specific resources about schools. So I encourage you to look at those and then adapt them for your setting. So another way to introduce more unstructured play into your different settings, the schools in particular, but also into the communities and families, is to consider employing playwork principles. And these are an ethical and professional framework for engaging with children's play very generally. They were created by Play England, and they sort of map out the principles of being able to approach play in a way that's unstructured and really support children's opportunities to engage with play outside of our predetermined sort of vision for what play should look like. I encourage you to connect with experts. Gather specific tools and resources that are available online to support this work. Again, each school and district has different sort of needs and opportunities, and it's really worth finding the things that are best aligned and then adapting them for your environment. But there's lots of places you can reach out for support and potentially connect with others who are doing this work. One small way of introducing more unstructured play into schools, but it's also something that you can talk to your families about in terms of something that they can do with their children while they're at home, is taking kind of mini play breaks throughout the day and having these happen outside as much as possible. As teachers, for example, you can notice what the children are playing. Think about what they're interested in and build these into your lessons to improve their engagement. So schools, teachers, and administrators and boards of education are really the experts on children and their needs. They're also the trusted voice in the community and beyond. So using your position to advocate for better and diverse opportunities for children's unstructured play, including risky and outdoor play at school, in the community and at home, is something that you can do. For example, you can send information and resources home to parents with simple ideas that can help them to introduce more unstructured play at home. Think about some of those barriers and how you might communicate the actual risks and how to mitigate those with the parents. You can work in collaboration with communities to offer unstructured play opportunities, like through the creation of nature playgrounds, those loose parts boxes that I discussed, and play streets, which is an initiative that involves shutting down or slowing streets for a specific period to encourage children to play safely outside in their neighborhoods. There's no need to reinvent the wheel to support additional unstructured play opportunities for children. Luckily, there are a lot of initiatives already happening. Look around and see what local organizations are doing in your community. Partner with them. Share resources and skills. Maybe have them come into your school and offer sessions. These could even be online. For example, the University of Alberta has a play program that they bring into schools and daycares that's part of their training of physical education students. Another opportunity that's possible to take advantage of right now is related to street closures. And this is specific to Edmonton, but I'm sure that there's similar things happening in other communities across the province. So in response to COVID-19, the City of Edmonton has been closing down lanes and slowing streets because more people are spending their time outdoors. And this is to help people stay safe and social distance. So this could bring play into the communities where your schools are located and into children's lives. And it's actually particularly vital in neighborhoods that don't have access to safe or interesting or appropriate outdoor green spaces, or where social distancing is tricky because of crowded development or lack of space. People are living in apartment blocks and so forth. So these are where this is particularly vital and maybe where that advocacy piece comes in. So think about how you might be able to take advantage of these opportunities and advocate for their expansion or continuation well past COVID. So speaking of COVID, it has created very specific concerns, challenges, and barriers to unstructured play. It's also created some opportunities in relation, which we'll chat about. So before we get into more of the COVID-related sort of possibilities, above all, the recommendation is to follow public health advice in the place at the time. It changes, so stay up to date through, for example, Alberta Health Services if you're in Alberta, but your local health department and then Alberta Health Services will have the most up-to-date recommendations. And regardless of the rest of this presentation, that is what we should be sticking to at this time and as it continues. There's others too who are sharing information that are particular to children's play at this time. And a group of Canadian researchers in particular are leading the way here. And I already mentioned Mariana Bersoni, she's part of this, as well as Mark Tremblay, who leads that report card work that we saw in the very beginning of this presentation. So they have a website, you see it at the bottom here, and I've linked to it as well in the resources. And they sort of summarize what's been happening and they make several recommendations. And their number one recommendation is to go outside and play. They suggest those sort of micro breaks with families. They also suggest going to parks or green spaces or shared spaces at off-peak hours, so trying to go when it's less busy. They've summarized the research that's occurred to date, and what they've noted is that fresh air and exercise boosts immunity, that being outside among others reduces social isolation and the negative consequences, for example, those related to mental health. They say to keep your distance, but keeping your distance is not the same as staying isolated. Playing in the out of doors and in ways that are unstructured can help children to process what is going on. And I heard this great story, or read this great story in an article where a man was observing how his children were playing, and they're quite young. I think they were 4 and 6, and he noticed them sort of working through some of the narratives that they had heard around COVID-19. And play really is a vital place for children to explore those ideas and for them to be able to make sense of what's going on in the world. Finally, transmission is less likely outside. In fact, research released earlier this month demonstrated that this is a lab simulation. The disease most likely dissipates off surfaces in the out of doors in sunlight because of the UV rays in less than 7 minutes. Now, like all COVID-19 research, this is in its infancy. However, it does sort of point to promising future in terms of playing outside. What it also highlights is the need to stay on top of the most recent information, and I can't say this strongly enough. There's a lot going on and it keeps changing. Go to trusted sources like Alberta Health Services and other health bodies like the Canadian Public Health Association for up-to-date information relevant to children, children's play, and so on, like this. They'll distill this and they'll make the best recommendations for those times. So I encourage you to go to those places frequently and to follow that information. I also encourage you to share that information with your students and your family, and perhaps help them facilitate unstructured play at home or in their communities by sharing the resources that you have for activities perhaps that can be done in family groups or at a distance. A great example of this is the play streets, which we've already mentioned, and they're happening. Consider organizing a play street or a socially distanced get-together with smaller groups of your students. It could be on a street or in a larger public outdoor space. Maybe you have the distances clearly marked to ensure that they can follow the directions. You could host a street dance party or the creation of building or other creative competitions where they're working by themselves, but they get to see what their friends are doing. Perhaps they can come up with stories and act them out for their friends. You could also perhaps help to facilitate online play sessions or encourage children to engage with each other playfully online. Creativity and imagination are vital aspects of children's play that can occur at a distance. In closing, what COVID-19 has revealed is the fragility of our well-being, including our children's social, physical, and mental well-being. Opportunities for play, particularly unstructured outdoor play, have diminished in favor of screens and the safety of indoors. It is amidst this difficult time that children's play takes on an even greater importance, considering its positive impact on physical, mental, and social health. As educators and decision makers, you have an unprecedented opportunity here. Now is a good time to act on children's unstructured play. Think about ways you might be able to incorporate it into your classroom, online, or in person in the future, into your school, your district, and your community. Help families and communities to stay well and help their children develop and thrive by doing the same, by passing that information on. In addition to the challenges, what COVID-19 has also revealed is our resiliency, our ability to pivot and find creative solutions and act fast. It has revealed what is possible.
Great. Thank you so
now
much,
is
Nicole,
the time. Let's get out there and play.
I gleaned a lot of information. And
so we'll open up now for questions, and I'll quickly scroll through my research slides so that they're on the recording and people can refer to them later on if they
Nicole answer those.
Are looking for them beyond this presentation.
All right, so thank you so much everyone for your attendance and participation today, and to Nicole for presenting on the topic of unstructured child-led play and comprehensive school health. We hope you find ways to keep your bucket full during these times. I would like to now draw your attention to the web links tab. I know Nicole mentioned them before. She provided links to many resources. All you have to do is click on the title and it will take you to the web page. These links will stay up for the remainder of the week. I won't clear that tab. You may still access them by logging back into the platform using the bit.ly link you used to participate today.